welcome to Portal to the New Earth. I'm your host, Harlan Emil Gruber, and I'm really happy to be joined by my new friend, Chris McNutt, who I met in a 13-month Galactic Shamanism course hosted by my good friend Xi Earthstar Healer. And we had 144 people as part of that course from all over the world. And Chris lives up in Yukon, Canada, very close to Alaska, and we really connected through that course, and we just have so much in common that I'm just really excited to have him here on the show today to share all of the amazing things he does. So, Chris, if you just want to introduce
the portal to the new Earth. Whoa, where am I? I went through a portal. I'm in the new Earth. It's freaking awesome. There's plants. Harlan, great to be on your show. Congrats on getting this going.
So, besides the fact that we were both interested to sign up and do this 13-month class, which is called Galactic Shamanism, but essentially what it is just...
Are you now a galactic shaman? That's the question. Do you feel like, did you make business cards that say Harlan Emil Gruber, Galactic Shaman?
I think the reason why both of us joined this class is because we were already galactic shamans to begin with, but we didn't really fully embody or understand or know it. So this is why we resonated very closely and decided to be part of it and get the training, to fully integrate. And what the galactic shamanism really means is really simple. And Xi Earthstar's work is really down to earth and grounded, even though she remembers being a seventh dimensional Andromedan geneticist. And Andromeda is the next galaxy over, which is where the term galactic comes in. We're not just like star seeds from other stars in this galaxy. We're bringing in these other galactic frequencies here to this galaxy. But we really need to integrate it here into our human form and into our lifetimes here. And that's basically what that course teaches us. Very, very practical, basic things of just grounding here into the earth and grounding into our body and meditating and integrating into our body. And so, through those 13 months, we learned a lot. And now the next step of that course is an ongoing EarthStar Academy that anyone can join at any time to get these trainings and get this information and go at your own pace. And, Xi is doing an incredible job of launching it. It just launched in February, and there's already a couple of hundred people in that.
And that's the promo pump. Portal to the New Earth podcast, brought to you by EarthStar Academy. Harlan's the spokesperson for it.
Yes, and it is a good point, but that's not going to be the main focus of our conversation today, but it is an important focus because that is what brought us together.
Context, where we met. We were both exploring kind of within ourselves this notion of, yes, galactic shamanism. There's a lot of things you can do out in the world these days. It's freaking crazy how many modalities, workshops, teachers, people that are just out there letting it rip with this, that, and another thing. Yes, we were both attracted to Xi Earthstar's work and what it means to be kind of like a galactic being embodied in human form and trying to figure it out. I like what she does. A lot of stuff she's just calling like Starseed Mission Support, where it's kind of like, okay, hey, new human, with this idea of star seeds, of beings that like haven't been here in human incarnation form for too long. And people ask me all the time, what's your definition of a starseed? And I think I think there's some beings here, and I don't totally know my own relationship to human form and how many incarnations I've sort of been in, but there's like some are coming in fresh, and some have been here for many kind of incarnations. Like, we're all galactic beings. It's not like we weren't something before we were human. Doesn't matter if you've been ripping 2,000 incarnations down here. Humanity's pretty fresh in the galaxy, right? Like, humans is kind of like a new, I think of us as like this experience vehicle, right? We're just like this new model experience vehicle that is souls are popping into in order to have some experience. So I think some starseeds are just kind of like showing up in human form. Some claim, oh my God, it's my first incarnation. And there's some things you just got to learn about being human, and watching starseed journeys and like listening to people who are describing this. It's like, yeah, there's a lot to kind of figure out in here. Like being in human form is complicated. It doesn't matter where the hell you came from. You come from the seventh dimension of Andromeda. Now you're a human. It's got its own rules and parameters. And yeah, it takes a while to figure this joint out.
Yep. And, like I said, we both kind of had this inclination before coming to the class. And of course, with my work of building my portal installations to have the intention to help shift the consciousness to a more aligned with the sacredness of everything on the earth. And then your work, which I was like so, thrilled to find out. And of course, you didn't follow through that much, but you have these incredible videos in two formats. One, Ascension Weekly.
Here's some stories we're following that are currently unfolding along possible timelines in the future, or in the past, or maybe even in the present, depending on when you're watching. Where I am now, this is your possible news from the future.
Possible news from the future.
Earth Federation President David Wilcock continued his policy of implementing controversial programs by issuing an executive order stating that telepathy must now be taught in all school programs as the primary second language, with the goal of having all children graduate high school fully telepathic by 2060.
Where, you kind of comment on what's going on in the world from this more galactic perspective. And then what I really loved was your Commander Chaos series, of which you did a good few of them. I guess pretty accurately to say it's loosely based on Pee-wee's Playhouse style of a kid's show, but with a really conscious twist.
I'm coming at you today from my Galactic Activation chamber. A little something I picked up in the Pleiadian star system during my last 20 and back mission. It's made by the Arcturians, and it's got multi-dimensional light frequency resonance programming encoded quantum crystal technology. Perfect thing for all you junior commanders out there.
And and you're just so talented, and and you bring your music into that one, and and that's another one of my favorite things that you do is you take all these popular songs and then change the lyrics into more about what's really going on, the consciousness, the cutting edge, and exploring that. So if you want to just talk about how you even got to start doing those, and your plans for future creative projects or anything along the lines of how you're sharing your talents with the world to assist in this evolution taking place.
Yeah, of course. The journey, I guess, starting on the journey. That show is called Ascension this week. Ascension Weekly, close enough. Really, the idea to bring some comedy to this world. Like I even noticed in my own process. I've always kind of been funny. I remember cracking jokes in front of the class when I was like 7 years old. I was the funny guy in the group when in high school, I was a little annoying, but the McNutt could make you laugh. So he was allowed to hang out with the cool kids, so to speak. And I did time as a stand-up comic. Performer. I've been a clown. I used to work part-time as a clown when I was paid the bills going to university. I've just kind of always had a little bit of a comedic perspective on this, because I think, now that I've delved deeper into my, spiritual side of things, it's always sort of been there, but I even noticed with myself this tendency to kind of be tight with it or serious. Like there's just like an energy of like seriousness that we apply to so much in our world, but we also apply it in the spiritual way. Like this seriousness that at the same time, we're trying to make our way towards light and the lightness. And like we have to be in the light, but light does mean it's just a little bit of a lighter vibration. So you got to hold everything a little looser. It's not a tightly clenched fist when we're kind of doing this work. So like comedy, and we have to kind of be able to laugh at ourselves. We have to be able to laugh at this journey. We have to laugh at being human, because it's a bit of a fucking joke down here. Like this whole thing is a bit of a comedy, and a comedy of errors, and just being in this chaotic human form that it is. So to me, I don't take it all that seriously, but I do very deeply inside. But paradox, I don't know if I'm explaining it, but I'm trying to kind of figure that out, that balance between comedy and seriousness and how we can evolve, but not with that clenched fist on everything.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I don't follow mainstream news at all, and it maybe is slightly they have certain agendas, and the way that I get my news is from Russell Brand, who will take certain items, and then of course he spends he just makes fun and all these jokes about it, and like I also mentioned JP Sears, and they really are looking at what's really going on, and then making fun of it, and yet you're also like learning, and that's pretty much what you were doing when you were focusing on Ascension this week, of which there's only just a few episodes. He did it like a couple of years ago, I guess, and so.
And then I got smoked. I think, like I was gonna say, like a lot of people have been going through these last few years on the planet, like people who have been practitioners and on whatever you want to call it, the path on a journey on unfolding, like discovering this stuff. I think it's been kind of an intense time, like the last few years, where I just got hit with some, it's time to go inner, it's time to go deep. It's just this noticing how my external expression just needed a bit of a hiatus and needed a bit of a break, because what's been going on in the field, like COVID was a really interesting trip where it's like, hey, let's just shut everything down, go deep, go inner, go explore, go do that, take care of that stuff inside. And I've had this journey of the last few years now where it's just been that it hasn't manifested as like this external expression. I know it's coming back because I'm a creative guy. We all are very creative beings down here. It's what we're here to do, create. But I'm just noticing in people I kind of connect with, there's just a lot of that going on these days. And we're just kind of like, whoa, what the fuck? We're having like portals and like, I don't know about you, man, the February portals this year, the 222, all the twos lined up, 222 was just like, and yeah, I'm just feeling, I think, things in the field these days quite deeply. And I'm almost curious myself to see what the next wave of expression is going to be from myself, but also just enjoying that time where obviously, the energies, you follow the Shaman resonance, you follow, all this stuff going on. It's the field is kind of deep and intense. And it's as we shift into 4D consciousness, it's like, yeah, that inner world. That's where my explore has been lately anyways.
Right. So that was kind of part of the reason why, you started these amazing videos, and then you kind of took this break just for your inner work. And I think that's, really important. And I'm glad, like right now, you're here joining today to be more outward and share what you learned on that. And that's kind of what the next question I have is, like you say, you're tuned into a certain level that you're feeling these kind of ascension energies that are coming in, that with the earth is shifting, consciousness is shifting on the planet. For a lot of people, they're not as tuned in, and they might feel uncomfortable or confused, and they don't know what's going on. And, and since you're being more focused on this
Shaman people. I never got a piece of paper from Z, but
like, do you have any more like insights, since you are like a certain level of adept on tuning into these higher frequencies and consciousness, and of course right now it's just May of 2022, so we're still kind of in the thick of these shifting frequencies, and the financial right now, the financial market is kind of like, who knows what's going on. Everything is kind of still up in the air, and it's kind of really interesting because we're over 2 years into COVID, from March of 2020, when it first like, oh my God, the whole world is now locked down, and here we are, May of 2022, and all I'm hearing are people getting COVID now for the first time, and it's spreading now, and of course, no one is dying from it. People are just getting this really weird sickness that's very strange and uncomfortable. Yeah, but it's not like the hospitals are filled with dying people, essentially, but they're still playing this out. And I kind of knew, even back then, that it was going to be a good few years. And so it's really hard doing this talk with you right now because we're still in the middle of it, rather than getting a perspective once we kind of get through where it's going. But we do both have a certain vision of where this is going. And it's really important, I think, to hold the positive vision, because that's what creates the new earth. And that's what this is about. It's very easy to get disillusioned with all the negativity in the world. And I think I read somewhere that there's a poll that was done recently that most people don't have a very positive vision for the future of what's going on. And so the role of Portal to the New Earth and the role of people like us is to be just fully centered already in that new earth. These frequencies are coming in, and we just need to like hold on to that, but also just knowing that vision and sharing the vision of where we're going and how this is all going to play out actually helps to make it happen. So can you talk about your perspective on what is going on here on planet Earth with us humans?
That was a big hit of Harlem.
Besides baseball, which is back in effect.
I'm not sure to what degree I totally resonate with everything there, because I think the most important thing about this time is we have to be very unique and we have to be very authentic to our own expression and our own experience. I somehow resonate with the fact that maybe we're all going somewhere, but maybe we're not. Like maybe that's not what's going on. There is an opportunity here, if you've incarnated into human form, to do some, I mean, we're here for experience. We're here for learning. We're here for, you're at soul school. That's kind of what we're here. We're at the workout gym for soul consciousness. So what's being presented to us right now is an opportunity for growth. If you want to you want to go to the gym and it's time to work out on your, upper body or whatever, this is what is presenting itself. And not everybody is taking that opportunity in the now to do that. So to me, it's this paradox of talking about, where we're going collectively or want to go, and then what's going on the individual level, like those flocks of birds that seem to there's a whole bunch of them and they're all kind of flying off the
murmuration.
Yeah, is kind of unknown. So, I go back and forth between, yes, we're doing something to up-level humanity in general. And then, I think it's also important for us to identify with our journey on a deeper level, even outside of being human. Like, what are you doing as a soul? Where is your soul evolving? Yes, you're using this human experience at the moment to learn, but we don't really know where we're even going individually. So I think it's a great time. That's why it's good to just kind of go in and find out what is resonating and find out what's in your own inner landscape there in order to kind of get that direction, because it might not be the same as somebody else and it might not be as unified as we think, and it absolutely might be at the same time. It's like being in the presence. We just have to be present with this time and just to see where it unfolds, without fear, without anxiety, without even wanting it to go somewhere. I think that's like a snag that we're even getting hooked on here in the New Age spiritual community, that we think there's a direction and we have holding to this vision that, oh my God, we got to get to the new earth. We got to save this place. We got to get it. It's like, no, you're just a soul having experience throughout the cosmos as you have for, eternity before this. And this is just another one. So get what you can out of it. I think it's a paradox, right? It's a paradox between the individual journey, the expanded consciousness of oneness having its journey, and what we're doing at the same time. I find myself, it's a very confusing time to be a human. There's, as far as information, and it's almost like information overload. And even within the spiritual community, there's so many different perspectives, and it's kind of coming at you all this way that I feel kind of overloaded, that it's almost like it's driving me inner, and it's like the understanding is almost beyond the 3D mental space that we're going from. And it's almost like there's so much pressure in the mental space. There's like some alchemy that's taking place that is driving us into like the place without concepts, the inner spot that is beyond mental concepts. And we get into a space of just experiencing and feeling the understanding, and it's sort of driving us there with like mental stimulus, external world overload. is kind of like now helping to kind of like push us into this inner space where we just have a, I don't want to say better, but it's like, it's kind of in the evolutionary journey, you know, like we're kind of becoming adults in a way. You know, this is just kind of like, you know, I think of that. Yeah, we're kind of becoming adults. We're kind of like growing up. It's an expanded thing.
That's a really good perspective on it. You know, it's kind of like the perspective that, you know, nothing matters. It's not, who cares if we, the new earth or ascension or anything, it's all just the personal soul journey. And as humans, there's such a wide variety of souls and types of people that are all here for like a very, very broad range of experiences. We're not all on the same path. You and I are very similar, and yet there's many other people out there that are coming to this from maybe some overlap or completely different worlds. And it's the interior world that makes the world. But, you know, like I remember first hearing about 2012 being like the shift way back in the early 80s through Terence McKenna before it became popularized through Jose Arguelles and the Mayan calendar. He had a thing called Time Wave Zero that was saying that time and novelty and everything was going to reach a point in 2012, December 2012. And then the Mayan calendar talked about it. And then I remember the harmonic convergence, which was the summer of 1987, was like the beginning of this. And we were supposed to be shifting the consciousness of the whole planet. So I personally am aligned very much so with this vision, this outward vision of this idea that humanity is evolving, ascending, that the earth is shifting. We were supposed to shift in 2012. Now here it is 2022. We're still kind of, you know, we have the war in Ukraine.
Rush everybody. Like, why is everyone freaking out that it's not happening? Like, where's this coming from? Like, it's 10 fucking years, people. Like, human consciousness, galactic consciousness has been evolving for hundreds of years. Like, but don't you this freak out about we're not in the new earth, it was 2012, and like
don't you have some sense though of some like more kind of like, you know, major shift of dimensions and ascension, and that and collectively, not just for each one of us inwardly on our own inward spiritual and soul journey to evolve and become, like you say, an adult or, you know, grow up, that but there's some kind of collective thing going on right now with all humanity, and then tuning into the earth itself. Like I've heard it said many times that what's taking place here on earth is an ascension of the planetary consciousness and being and the humanity on it all together collectively. And we're clearly in the midst. I mean, the analogy that's thrown around quite a lot is when a caterpillar spins its cocoon and goes inside. Before it comes out as a butterfly, if you look inside of the cocoon, it's complete chaos. There is no caterpillar in there. There is no butterfly in there. There's just a whole bunch of undifferentiated goo that has to reorganize itself into another being, a butterfly. And kind of right now in this ascension process, we're kind of like in that cocoon phase of chaos and sorting things out until we come out the other side. And yet some of us that may be more tuned in or have a certain vision might see the butterfly that we're becoming. And in some ways, there has to be that vision. Otherwise, that butterfly will never come together. Otherwise, the new earth will not happen if there isn't the full vision and understanding. And that's where I like to put a lot of my attention into, like dreaming, visioning, seeing, conceiving the new earth that is the most beautiful, sacred world that we could possibly imagine. And before you jump in, so right now, the way that the world is, for humans, unless you go out into nature and the wilderness, you're in the human world. You go to these cities. The cities are where most things are happening, where all human culture is. Whether you want to go to the museums or galleries, or you want to go to the stadium and watch some sports or a concert, or go to the restaurants, or just every level of human experience that we've developed, human culture on the planet, all the things we think about, fashion and buildings and everything that is conceived by humans and then put out into the world to create the life of humanity in all the cities that we have everywhere. And so what I'm thinking about is how that's going to transform and evolve into a very, very different earth, which is why I term it the new earth. that will look very different than what's taken place over the course of the thousands of years to get us to the point that we are at now. And like, I just feel like it's, important, the inner work and is really important, but what is this? Do you have, I want to hear your visions or ideas relating to this concept of, where we're going right now and taking place on Earth.
I think lately, my own shift has kind of been this difference between even like the exploration. Okay, you talked about visualization and kind of bringing in the new Earth through visualization in this creative process, and we dream it, and we dream the world. And this is like an ancient, indigenous practices all over the world where like I dream the world, where we were dreaming it in. I also think that like what I've noticed with myself, which, this gets into like basic, the physics behind manifestation and how we make things happen in our own world and the collective, the level of which we are doing it at. Like, I think one thing we're really going through now is this shift from a 3D operating system to a 4D operating system. There's a lot of talk about densities and dimensions, and a lot of people are talking about we're going to 5D. I'm a bit more of a density snob, where I think we're in like third density and we're transitioning to fourth density. Dimensions are infinite, and they're more like a location than in a vibratory location, rather than density is about just our physicality and kind of like the form we're embodying and manifesting. We're making this shift that is also about moving the primary operating system from the solar plexus up into the heart space, where solar plexus and mental energy, this is, what we're kind of coming out of. We do a lot of like, when you visualize, is it in your mind? Is it a mental concept, or is it a heart-based concept? And this is just something that everyone can kind of go in and like experiment with, and maybe you already are, to kind of notice this difference and the power it has when you bring it into visualization and manifestation from the heart space rather from the mental space. And I noticed my own journey, incredibly mental. I've been a thinker my whole life. Aligning into this heart kind of feely spot is just kind of like this weird new trip like I'm on. I've referred to myself as a 4D toddler lately. Like, I'm just learning how to kind of like walk in 4D, but it's like bringing it through from, yes, more of like a heart space, rather than putting the ideas up here and have them have words and concepts. And even I've heard, some teachings I've kind of been involved with that are coming from like galactic channels, where they talk about that's a very 3D thing to do, where even you put a mental concept in there and kind of put it, if you do that in the heart space instead, and almost more energetic rather than mental concept, words, visualization, then the creative power is that much more potent. Because yes, we are, I think this thing that's coming online for us all now in the new age spiritual community and concept is like we're divine, sovereign, co-creator beings, and that the creative power that we have is pretty freaking intense if we're willing to unleash it. I think it's awesome that you're doing this work where you're trying to really visualize like society and architecture, and like how systems, and how if we are to live in a new earth in a new way, how will all of that look? That is like an amazing vital part of the manifestation. And I find lately I'm just kind of in this internal liquid world where I'm not even like, I don't even know what I'm manifesting. It's just kind of like energetic, heart, love, that sort of thing. And trusting that somehow that will also lead to the promised land. We're kind of working it from different angles and at the same angle at the same time.
Man, you brought up some really, really key points of everything that, I'm working on. You kind of like summed it all up in that last little rant. So, and I'm going to just comment, because you started off by saying, how we're moving from like solar plexus to the heart. That's a really key thing. And one thing, through my studies is that humanity for the past few thousand years, we've been basically kind of locked in the first three chakras, the root, the sacral, and then the solar plexus, which is all about power and control. And we've kind of been like locked in those three. And this shift, this ascension that's taking place is moving up into the heart. But it's almost like a trilogy. It's like the heart, throat, and third eye also. But it definitely begins with the heart, and then also like this idea of a higher heart chakra that's being activated at this time. And then, of course, and I don't want to go on too long because I know I make a lot of points when I start talking, but it's hard for me to stop. And I'm trying to tie this all together into one point. But you talked about, being caught up in the mind and then being able to learn to come more down into the heart, to know and connect and relate to the world more through the heart, where we also, as humanity as a whole, we are very much locked into the mind. And there may even be some sort of mind control that we don't even can see from the perspective of the mind because it's so pervasive and so there, just like a fish doesn't know it's in water, or we don't feel like we're in air, unless, of course, the wind blows hard. But, it's something that's the substrate, and yet once there is a way to become cognizant of this mind control, to break free of it, but also, like, most importantly, come back into the heart center. So, these concepts of working with our chakras, and then the shift, what the point that you kind of make is that it's not so much about this outer shift in the world that's ascending and taking place, but it's all happening within us, in our human body, through what you just spoke about.
The energy body, the consciousness, the soul body, whatever. I think that geography in there is pretty vast. I'm still just exploring it. There's lots of concepts, but I think so much teachings and stuff's coming online now is like, yes, that soul geography, like what is happening internally, how are we connected to higher selves, and the different realms, and what are we when we're not in human form, and these kind of expanded ideas are really important at the moment. I think it's been a good exploration for me. So much is going on. The descriptions of it that we've been fed through religion over the past 10,000 years are pretty primitive. It's like elementary school. We got to tell the kids something. You give them some basic answer. And so we're kind of like growing, we're kind of going beyond that in the understanding of just like, who am I in this body? Like just soul architecture, so to speak. And that, you brought up a couple points. Maybe we'll get the mind control. We'll park mind control for a second. I think what is an important concept to keep in mind when moving from the solar plexus, willful mental energies into the heart space. We think about the heart chakra and we go, oh, it's love. It's just love. You got to love everything. It's like, no, it's not necessarily love. It's more like you got to feel everything. So then people go into this heart space and they go, oh, I'm in the heart space. It's like, I'm not feeling love. I'm just supposed to be in this like magical world where it's just all love and bliss. And that's all I feel. And it's like, no, you're just supposed to feel. Like we just feel. You can feel anger, sadness, like everything in between. We just have to like feel it and have the understanding of it through feeling, because so much of what we've been taught and so much of our wiring is we take the heart and it's like plugged into the mind. So as soon as we have a feeling, we go, oh, I'm going to like think about it. I'm going to process it. I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to attach some words to it. When it's like, no, you actually don't have to do that. You could just feel it and have the understanding be just purely in that realm of feeling. And that's where intuition and people that are coming online with energy healing, and I think that high heart starts to activate when you get into these realms. And like there's so much going on out there. People, multidimensional awareness, intuition, telepathy, you name it, all comes from just feeling. And it's not always like love that you're feeling, but it's just important to feel. And you might be able to relate to this. My being, I'm male, I'm a dude, I've been in my head my whole life. This whole idea of like feeling is kind of a new thing, but I'm noticing it's freaking revolutionary. Like that is the secret sauce, that allows the greater understanding. That's why they say we're going into a feminine age, like in women, and so many women teachers, like, as you say, we've both been into the work of Xi Earthstar. And I think this, like, women and feminine teachings are coming on board now, like really important. They're like stepping to the forefront. It's like, yes, this feeling thing, like if we look at the past 13,000 years of humanity, it's like, God, women, was to burn them witches, like they felt, they were intuitive, this was thought to be the devil. And it's like, actually, it's like, no, this is the promised land. It's not always fun. It's tumultuous. It is again, it's not all just love and bliss in there when you feel, but it is, yeah, it's like an antenna that goes beyond the solar plexus and the mental processes. And that is the opening into the new earth. Bam, that's your portal to the new earth, brother.
Yep. And, you just made a point, which I just was reflecting on, speaking about, how women are teaching a lot of this more, and the feeling is a very feminine thing. And then all of a sudden I just realized that all of the teachers and people I've been following the last few years are all women for the most part. There are a few guys out there, and I listen to them, and they have good meditations and good stuff to share, and I can think of them, but I'm not really drawn to follow them deeply. But and I just need to list and mention these people's names because they're all so incredible.
We got to give props to the ladies.
Yeah, so going back to Lisa Renee, who now is kind of reclusive and isn't taking on new people, but she has a website called Energetic Synthesis. And I met her in 2009, and she did a reading for me when I was told that I'm from Andromeda. And like, oh, that makes sense. And I really resonated. So that was a big part of my galactic awakening, even though I've been on this path ever since I'm a teenager when I read The Cosmic Trigger way, way back when. And I talk about that in some of my other talks. But so Lisa Renee, who Laura Eisenhower, who I met a good few years later, is very close to. And Laura Eisenhower is more of a spokesperson for a lot of Lisa Renee's ideas, plus her own personal journey and ideas. And then there's Sandra Walter, who's like an ascension guide, and I was doing her crystalline DNA activation meditations. We already mentioned Xi Earthstar Healer, this young Chinese woman that's incredible. And then I also follow this woman that's not that well known, Rebecca Rose, that was introduced through Laura Eisenhower, and then Brooklyn Rain. And I just love listening and working with them, and they share, all of them, various meditations and all of these ways to help us, connect. And they're all basically teaching and talking about exactly what we were just talking about, this, coming more into the heart and the activations of the chakras and all of these things. So, and of course, though, now here I am going into a second point, but it's totally related, just about the relationship with the feminine here on Earth. Of course, we've been in this male-dominated world for many years, and women have been suppressed. You mentioned, like the burning of the witches way back when, but we're still doing that. Look at the latest, Republicans, turning on the abortion and, regulating women's bodies. I mean, we're still on a war.
It's a process. This takes time. Like, we're in the shift. We're in the cocoon. Patriarchy's dying. And as soon as anything dies, it tries to grasp on. It has some last grasp to hold. Like, we're going to see all kinds of systems, not just patriarchy. We're going to see our economic system, our education system. We're going to see militaries and governments all start to crumble in the coming years, centuries, and they're all going to hold on the best they can. So let's not get too uptight, everybody, when these old systems try to exert their power one last time or the last few times. They're doing that because they know it's dying. They know the shift is happening. They're trying to attach to something. So yes, we're moving into this feminine world, and it's going to be okay.
Right, that's the backlash, and and yet what we're really mostly moving into is a balance, a unified male and female, because the possibility to go the opposite and have an overly dominant feminine is also possible. That's in duality and polarity, and yet we're balancing it all.
so much of the feminine teachings coming through, it's not directed that way, which is wonderful. It's which is the beauty of it and why it's true. And we can see like, okay, this is a next level. You know, it's not just going to, the pendulum's just not going to swing back and be 3D and with a feminine dominance. It's like, no, we're kind of synthesizing and we're moving up. And that's the beauty of this age we're in.
Yep.
Yes, I'm going to throw in another one. Sarah Elkady, I think is how you pronounce her last name. She goes by the Alchemist, and she has some videos on YouTube. Again, really potent, powerful stuff, understanding. She does these short videos, 12, 13 minutes. She'll take one topic and explain it really well. And it's like, oh, it's beautiful. Again, the feminine codes, all about, man, patriarchy's dead. We got the Shiva hair going on. We know the balance of the this is the time to let it rip. So do you want to talk now about you're talking about
the mind control, that thing,
control, that whole thing. That's kind of the matrix, the false matrix,
the false matrix, yeah.
All that sort of stuff. You want to?
Well, you know, yes, in the best possible way, without, you know, starting to throw around, you know, all the typical terms of, you know, reptilians, Illuminati, Cabal,
blah blah blah,
which is the, you know, because it can be addressed in just a more practical way, which I'm sure you can probably speak about it without us going down, you know, the complete, you know, woohoo way of looking at it. But the most important thing about it all is that we have a perception or recognition of it. So how do you see it? How do you perceive it, and how can you explain this false matrix? That's a pretty good term for the overarching agenda of it.
Yeah, or to me, it's like, is it false, or is it like a matrix? Is it like, is it here? Is it real? And it's not really false. Then is it?
Well, also reversal is a lot of times used in describing it. Or that it's disconnected from source, and it's actually feeding off of our energy that we've been co-opted or somehow hoodwinked into being part of.
Yes, I'm well versed in that side of the house, those concepts. I like what's kind of gone on with the notion of awakening right now. Where I remember 30 years ago when I was kind of like, you know, Buddhist and Eastern concepts were like the dominant kind of ideas about, you know, spirituality, which has shifted and synthesized and all kinds of new codes and stuff. It almost seems like the dark ages now, and you kind of go think back to where, and there was also this notion of enlightenment and awakening, which was very kind of almost narrow and rigid, and this is how it happens. And now we've just, everybody uses the term awake, and I've like awoken and back when I woke up, and it's like, and there's so many facets to it. And one is just knowledge and understanding. And the fact that we are learning, we got the internet to thank, just our ability to communicate and share information like no other time in humanity. And we're all sharing notes and going, oh my God, this is fucked. Is this fucked over in Poland too? It's like, yeah, it's totally fucked in Poland too. It's like, we had no idea how fucked up this system is. Yes, there's domination and control and elites and, you know, running this planet. And like, we're starting to wake up to that. And some are saying it goes higher in the dimensions of energy, and that there's kind of all this sort of stuff. And to me, where I'm kind of going to my own practice and how to counterbalance it is like, yeah, it's kind of always been there. And if you want to even go old school, the yogis have been busting through it for like thousands of years. It's like the same practices are to be put in place. You know, like if you give it power and you give it attention, then it has power over you. And I know it seems, some people kind of go, okay, well, that's just bypass, man. That's no term, spiritual bypass. You're not meeting it head on. But it also has a lot to do with, you know, we create our own reality. What we choose to focus on is the world we live in. If you want to focus on the fact that there's just these negative agendas and there's all this fear and stuff, then like the proof to me, what I witness is people who are wrapped up in that. It's like, well, you just listen to them. They're fearful. There's all this stuff. They live in the world. They have created that world and they live in it. and they feel the energies of that world. And so we were kind of chatting the other day about just the notion I had about, you know, sports and how it's like a baseball game where everybody's like playing baseball and everyone's agreed to be on the baseball field and playing this game by these rules. And the minute you kind of stop playing baseball and go like, well, this is dumb, I don't want to play baseball anymore, you're able to walk off the field. You know, the rest of the people on your team might go, what the fuck, dude? You're second base. Where are you going? We're in the middle of a game, you know? And on some level, we've made those contracts with each other to be down here and have this mutual experience and play certain roles. And it's like, there's a false matrix and I'll be a light warrior and let's all get together and let's bust this thing down. And it's, on some level, it's a game that we've just decided to play, and we've created the illusion of it, and we kind of feed it, and we're kind of having the game. And on the other side, there's dark forces going like, yeah, let's be dark forces. Take out all those light bastards. We hate those light guys. And it's just a game. It's like baseball, and people are just choosing to play it. And you can. There's nothing wrong with it. Baseball's a great game. You want to play the battle of light and dark through the eons, and you want to kind of like be a light warrior and fight the dark forces, it's a fucking awesome game. It's so much fun. And there's lots of people down here doing it. And on some level, we've kind of also agreed to come down and play this game, which is why we're here. You can't just kind of go like, sorry guys, I'm leaving in the middle of the 6th inning and I'm like leaving the game. You kind of can't, because you're here sort of playing it, but there's also the recognition that on some level, it's just a game. It's just an illusion. The fear is an illusion, and you can rise above it. We have the ability to create whatever freaking tunnel we want straight through this, straight out of it, right to source consciousness whenever, however we want. And we can do that. And if you choose to get bogged down in the field of fear and reptilians and, oh my God, mind control, it's like you're going to live in that reality. And to me, when I see it with people, I just see the proof. I see the evidence that everybody with people get wrapped up in, then they live out that life, and then they live out the experience of it. It can be anything. You get into politics, you're really uptight about politics and you follow it. And then you, I don't know, you just get that experience.
I know.
Just experiences, man. It's all just a big experience farm. It's like an amusement park. It's like we're ripping around from ride to ride. Let's go ride that roller coaster. It was like, whoa, what the fuck was that? I was like, whoa, dude, that was super intense. And that's kind of all we're doing. Just kind of playing baseball. So you want to play the mind control baseball, play mind control baseball. It's kind of a fun game.
You know, and the thing is, it's pervasive. I mean, your answer was perfect. I mean, we pretty much just can end our talk now, because you basically just gave the answer to everything in the universe as a human being, because, you know, it's just our choice of what we put our attention to, which is then creates our reality. And, you know, some people might argue, but no, you know, there's all this going on in the world, but that's just because they're enmeshed in that game, and it's so pervasive, it's so overwhelming that, like, you kind of
true. See, it's for them and they're in it. It's true. There's nothing that is false around here. None of it is false. We live with this notion in humanity that there's like, oh, we got to expose that because it's false. Like, that's not real. Everything's true. Every experience everybody's having is true, and there's nothing that is false on the other side of it. And we live in between those kind of realms. So like when people say that this is how it is, totally is. It totally is. And that's so true. It's not wrong. I'm just shifting and trying to have a different experience. I mean, take COVID, for example. Some people were like, I hear people talk about, oh, these have been really bad years. Oh, like the last 2 years have been so horrible. It's like, fuck, I love the last 2 years. COVID was fucking awesome. If you're a meditator, these were the best 2 years ever. Everything just chilled out and fucking calmed down, and everyone stayed away from each other, and you just stayed home and meditated for a couple of years. These were great, but other people didn't have that experience. And I don't want to piss on what their perspective was, but we just went through something on this planet collectively called, you know, this pandemic. Well, however you want it. Some people even put it in. See, some people, that was their experience. This is all bullshit, man. It doesn't even
pandemic.
Exist. Some people lost multiple family members, and it was like deep grief. And so it's like, and there's been this spectrum of like everything, and it's like you just see it right there. Here's something that's occurred, and everybody has had a different experience with it, and it's been personal, and a lot of it has to do with the world that you just created. I've had a great couple of years. I mean, I don't want to. It's been awesome.
I mean,
I'm kind of mourning the loss of COVID now.
I mean, and that's
COVID mourning.
I mean, obviously, that's why, I'm having you on for this conversation, is that you do have a pretty unique perspective and way of living your life that is removed from the whole mainstream paradigm that's enmeshed in that, and, doing your own inner work and then observing what's going on and being able to share, your perspective in hopes, and that's the main reason why we're talking today, because I want this to go out and other people will come and listen to us and they'll get to hear you talk and they'll be like, all of a sudden, like, oh, wow. I do have the choice to just, live my life the way I want to and not get caught up in all this, crazy mind control, negative. Lisa Renee calls it the negative alien agenda, the NAA. And but then again, like you just said, though, everything is true, and that means that there's conflicting truths, and that is true. That there are all of these realities being true, but there is some. I think your path and your perspective is really probably the best way, or just to let go of everything out there and not to let it hit you. But there is also, we are on this world with all these people, with all these stories playing out, and there is a certain consensus reality that the majority of humans are enmeshed in that's taking place. And to then start to see through that, to see this false matrix or this agenda that's been put in place, that like the game that we're all being kind of like co-opted into playing, and then to be able to say, hey, wait a second, I see this game now, and you know what? I'm not going to play it anymore. I quit. That's kind of going on right now. You were talking about people waking up, right? That's what waking up is to see the underlying fabric of this control paradigm, wake up to it. And then, I didn't mention Magenta Pixie, one of the people I follow, but she was basically said it's a 3-step process. First step, recognize that this agenda is taking place. Second step, I do not consent. But then the third and most important step is to love them, because it's all love. Because if you're going to hate them for doing it and want to fight them or kill them or destroy them or put them into prison, then you're playing that same game that they created, the control paradigm of divisiveness and fear. And we just have to move into the world of all love. And that's the hardest step of it. How can you love these beings that have created all the war and suffering and divisiveness on the planet? And
well, we need a new concept of love. That's the thing. Like we have to realize that what we call love is also very distorted through our 3D lens of personality and ego mind, and that it's a lot of our love is conditional love. That we love based on conditions. I will love you if you treat me a certain way. As soon as you stop treating me a certain way or something like this, then I'm not going to love you anymore. And we do a lot of love based on conditions from our 3D habit and training. And the shift is into this unconditional love. You just love everything for all reasons. And what I've noticed on my own journey is that, through meditation, I spend a lot of time trying to just get out of my ego mind, observe it. And that personality, what you call it, the person, whatever that is. And that when you're outside of that, it's like there just is love. Like it's not like I have to generate it or fabricate it or make it happen or make myself love something. No, there's just love there. There's just underlying fields of love that just are the fabric of the universe. And when you kind of align with that, then yes, it's just love. So it's all love. So yeah, you kind of just love everything because it's all part of everything. And that's just it. It can kind of be effortless in a way. And I think that the process of it is to just start to detach from the ego mind personality operating system that we're very identified with and very attached to. And it's not wrong. It's not the wrong way to be, but the next step in the evolutionary phase is to kind of, let's just embrace our higher realms and our higher selves in our soul level, where love just is naturally. It doesn't need to be forced. And then, yes, we are all one and connected. And these are the unhealed parts, and they just need to be loved and accepted as well. And they're expressing themselves as they need to be expressed with the darkness or whatever. And we gotta, unconditional love also means you accept it and let it be and let it do its thing without trying to change it or alter it. And know that when it expresses itself, it's part of like, it kind of, it runs itself out in a way. So a lot of what we're going through now on the planet is these darker energies we've built up through humanity. They're playing themselves out, but if we just let them play themselves out, let them love them while they're happening, that will help them to integrate and kind of disperse. Something like that.
Yep. Well, it's a good point. You're saying that, love is the answer, but it's not like the love that we typically think of just in our normal everyday human concept of love. It's this really much deeper, all-pervasive love that is like basically the fabric of the universe.
Yeah, the love. I kind of think of it as like, are you in love? Are you loving? Or are you just feeling the love that is just there? It's a different experience.
Yep. So, this has been a great conversation. And I kind of just want to end it with this one last little quote, because I just heard Laura Eisenhower do a talk, and she ended it with this great little sentence. And then you can comment on that, and then we'll wrap it up. But basically, after she went into this whole crazy story about what's going on, she says, ultimately, our higher mind and spirit holds dominion over physical matter and is the greatest power in the universe with love. So we totally got this.
We totally got this. She's so right. Like this is the not getting it, where people talk about I'm going through a dark night of the soul. And like there's so much of this journey that can be very challenging. And to me, like, it's not a dark night of the soul. It's a dark night of the ego mind. It's a dark night of the personality. Like that's the stuff that gets hooked. As Laura was saying, and many others say, yes, you go up the levels, go to your higher self, and go to the way you connect on multidimensional levels. And yes, you got it. Like we got this thing. The soul is freaking tough, man. Like the soul can endure. The soul is the part of us that said, oh yeah, super fucked up human lifetime. I can handle that. I'm going in. Do you want to go in? And it's going to be like this. We're going to write out the script of it in advance. It's like, oh yeah, that's kind of messed up. It's like, no, I got this. I got this. Like, you sure? Yeah, totally. I got this. I got this. That's the part of us that's tough and that has it. Now, when we're here in our ego mind and our personality having this experience, we're freaking the fuck out. But, from a soul level, we got this. And if we go and we connect to that, identify with ourselves as the soul that came into this vehicle to have an experience, and remember that part of the vehicle is the ego mind and the personality. We think that's like, no, my personality is the thing that's in here driving it. And it's like, no, that's as much a part of the clothing that you're wearing as the physical body is too. That when you live multiple lifetimes, you don't have the same personality through it. You don't have the same ego mind. You don't have that, but the soul is consistent. So like Laura Eisenhower was saying, we identify with our journey from a soul level, then it's not perfect. We still have to experience, we still go through lots of, tumultuous stuff on the ego mind personality level. But to me, my experience is it smooths a lot of the edges. It's like sandpaper. It's like a rasp that kind of takes the rough edges off all the corners, that and we're so much tougher than we think we are. And especially on that soul level, you connect to that. That's where the ultimate toughness is. And yeah, it's all love. It's all the fabric. You are the universe. What kid? What? Kill the universe? Can't hurt the universe. You're the freaking universe. Right? You're as tough as anything. You're the universe.
And the point.
The universe, Harlan.
I know, and then you're making a point of like our soul is being so tough to be able to take whatever the universe throws at us. But also, our soul is, in that quote, is so powerful that we actually hold dominion over it. We're the greatest power. We can not only just be able to, weather through it all, but we can actually create and make the world that we want. We're ultimately divine, sovereign, co-creator, powerful beings. And with love, we can create, our lifetime, our experience, and the world once we know that, once we grab the reins, right?
Even more, it's not even about grabbing the reins, the realization we're already doing it. We already are grabbing the reins. We already are driving it. That is how it is happening. You are creating the world you live in because you're already doing it. And unfortunately, we got a lot of like crappy ideas in our head, and we're crappy operating systems, and we create crappy lives for ourselves because that sort of thing. And that's part of this awakening and this realization. It's already happening. It's not this new thing that your soul comes online and you become a co-creative spirit. You are a co-creative spirit. You're, unfortunately, there's no victims here. Your life that is you're living is your own creation, and we're doing it every moment. And when we think shitty thoughts in our heads, it manifests in kind of shittiness around us. And like, so part of it is like all the responsibility, all the power. In order to be a divine, sovereign, co-creative being, to really grab those reins, you have to realize how you already are in that driver's seat, and you already are doing it, and take responsibility for it, and only you can change it.
Right, great point. But you use the word that we have to realize it. It's coming to that realization that this is how it's all happening. So that is kind of this shift of consciousness. Oh man, this has been such a great talk. Really glad to have you, and I'm looking forward to more conversations, and of course at some point we'll get to meet in person. So until then, thank you for
dude. We'll meet
joining me today.
And congratulations on everything you're doing with Portal to the New Earth. You're doing amazing work out there, Harlan. So take even stock, even within your personality and ego mind. Your soul totally knows it, but yes, you're doing good things in the world. So blessings, and wish you well on the Portal to the New Earth journey.
Thanks, Chris. And thanks to everyone who's joined us today to either watch the video or listen to this on the podcast. And remember to please like and share so other people can hear it and help grow this channel, and, just help in this, transformation to the new earth that we all know in our hearts is possible.